All right, welcome back. We are Game 2007. That's Multiplayer Game Design 1 in the winter 2026 semester at Georgian, and it's week 10, part 2 of our broadcast and recording. And in the last part, we added all kinds of functions. Function, and more functions. As we're adding functionality. And now we're into this place right here where I want to start using, testing out the functionality with my event begin play. So the first thing I want to do is I want to set the next patrol location. So let's go back to that. So in my event begin play. By the way, a quick way to get rid of all these tabs is all these tabs. Right click on one of the tabs you don't like and close tabs to the right. Woohoo! Right? It's way easier. Okay, so event begin play, I want to set next patrol location. Set next patrol location. Remember, recall what this is going to do. It's going to do it one time. Event begin play is going to go in here. It's going to set the patrol to patrolling. It's going to set the patrol speed. It's going to pick a random reachable point in the radius, 50,000 units. And then it's going to set that patrol location. And then we're going to get the controller, which is your AI controller, and do a simple move to that location. That's what this is going to do first. It's only going to do it once, but that's the first thing that's in the event graph. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to set timer by function name. So set timer by function name. This has to be any timers like this. Remember that it's nice to keep them here in the main graph. And we're going to call, if you notice, check if stuck. So we're going to check if stuck because we're going to this random location. We don't know where that is. We want to check it every second. Now you can change the interval if you want to, but because we're checking for 3 seconds, if something is stuck, then every 1 second makes sense. We want to loop that. That's your timer, right? We don't care about this. And that's the first part. We're going to event begin play and do this. Let's try this part first and see what happens. So again, I'm just going to add one thing at a time. And let's see what happens to our enemy. Where does it go? So I'm going to run over. It's picked a random location, I'm hoping. And it's not just going to stay in one place. It's just sitting there. So what happened? How come? Because check random location, I mean, that's supposed to make this guy move. Why isn't he moving? Well, let's do some troubleshooting and see what's going on. How come this enemy's not moving, right? So back to the drawing board for our enemy. It says set next patrol location. Set next patrol location is going to be changed to patrolling, change your walk speed, do this, and then do a simple move to that patrol location based on the stuff that I just used. This is my simple, it should go. You should do this thing all the time, right? And then every second, the timer is going to check if stuck. So if I go back to check if stuck, every second it's going to say, I'm going to get my actor location, and I want to get the distance between where I am and my last location, which is 0, 0, 0 starting off. If it's less than 10, in this case it won't be because 0, 0, 0 is way far away, then all this is skipped. So then start counter, if it's greater than 3, right, then it's going to set next patrol location. So all this does is it calls the other one, as an example. So the event graph, I mean, realistically, we should just be moving at this point. So what could be wrong? Well, let's take a look. So we have our AI agent, and let's try it again to make sure that it's not something that's happened that last time, not this time, because it happens as soon as the AI agent is spawned or starts in the game. So he's not moving. So what could be the problem? Well, let's check a couple things. Let's run this, and let's go to here in the event graph. Sorry, event graph in the outliner. That'll be okay. Enemy, right? Here's my base enemy. Let's take a look at some of these things. So he's not moving. We can see that clearly, right? Number one. And if I scroll down, then you're going to see, because we haven't put them in any specific spot, we're going to see that the location, patrol location, right?
Is it because it's a skeleton mesh?
Yep. Well, that's it. But I'm saying here's the skeleton, right? And, well, here's my location. You know, last location. What about last location? It doesn't come up. How come?
Is it not that you're using the blueprint thing like that?
Well, this is this, right?
It's not the BP though.
Oh, well, that's terrible. What happened?
Did you add the wrong one?
I added the wrong one, right? It wasn't on purpose, I swear, right? But I did add the wrong one. That can happen. What it did was, by accident, I added the wrong one, and that's a very good observation, because I would have been like spinning my wheels there for a second, like, wait, what happened? I didn't add this one, I added this one. All right, let's try that again. I'm like, that should work. And I knew a couple things were wrong because I didn't see the any of this stuff, which we should see. It did the animation, but that's all it did. Let's put this back where it's supposed to go, which is kind of near the spawn location, which is what I want to do there. And let's rotate this 180 degrees. There we go. And let's try it again. Now we should see this work. Okay, he's going somewhere. He's moving to a location. So now, if I look at the skeleton, so if I go to enemy, here's my base enemy, and if I look at the last location, it recorded this last location as this. Notice that it'll keep doing that, the last location, every so often. That's what it keeps doing, recording the last location. And the other one I want to look at is the patrol location. So there's the patrol location, which is 000. That's the first patrol location, right? So 000 is quite far in 50,000, radius. Can it get there is the question. It should be a random location, this patrol location, right? So let's take a look at that and make sure that that's not a problem. Because 000, although that's cool and all, is, well, in a different part of the map. All right, so let's take a look at that and see, again, does this change? So if I run it, we should get a random location that comes up, the patrol location. That's the first thing that we have to check. All right, so why didn't this work? Let's go back. So going back to this and set next patrol location. It picks a random location, right? It's supposed to pick a random location within radius, right? And that's where it's supposed to go. A random location in radius, and that's the value that we're getting. I'm getting the actor location, the current actor location, and that's the origin. And I'm looking within the patrol radius, which in our case is 50,000 units, and it should choose a location from there. Okay? So then we're going to go to that location. Now it shouldn't be 000. So let's take a look, make sure that I did that right, because that's one of our first things that we added in. Yeah. Patrol radius, nav data, get actor location, and then patrol location. So patrol location actually should show us a random position that it's supposed to go in every single time. And that's what's happening. That's what should be happening here. We should be able to look at our patrol location, and it should give us that information. Okay? So again, if we were to look at that, it should not be just 000, right? So that's number one. The other thing we can look at is if we've done it right. So again, if we look at that get random reachable point in radius, this one, if I want to look at what that is and take a look at that in the documentation, we can do that. So if I go to tools, and if I go to, help documentation, and make sure you filter for 5.5 because that's what we want to use, and we get random reachable rotation, random streams, and we can just look it up. Get random reachable point and radius. This is a terrible thing. I'm using a very wrong browser. I love it. So we want to go and take a look, right? It says in game development, Unreal Engine, it says provides dedicated node function for this purpose. And it says the origin, the radius, the nav data typically left as default to use the world's main navigation object. The return value, which is a vector. So I think we did it right. That's what it looks like to me, right? And we shouldn't have that many difficulties when it works to makes this thing work. Let's continue and see if it's still doing what it's supposed to do. So the next part is the event tick. In the event tick, I'm using a sequence node. Let's go back to the event graph. So here's the sequence node. And the sequence node is going to have a few pins. The first one is check patrol location. So in the place where you're sending me, check patrol location. And remember, recall that check patrol location takes the actor location, subtracts the patrol location, wherever that is, gets the vector length. If it's less than 500, then we're close enough to set the next patrol location, move to somewhere else. That's what this does. Okay? So that's that. Next, we want to check to see if the player has been detected, right? If it's true, then branch. That's what we want to do, and chase the player. So that's the second sequence that we're going to use here. So if player detected is true, branch. Then what we're going to do is we're going to use the get the player reference. Here's the player reference. And what we want to do here is chase. Okay, this looks pretty good. So far, so good. The last piece is enemy state. I want to set the enemy state. If the enemy state is equal to an enum, make sure you put that in there as attacking. If we're already in attacking states, then branch. If I'm in attacking state already, what do I want to do? I want to rotate towards the player. So rotate towards the player. And this is kind of a, I want to call it a hack because what it is, you know, you're going to do the attack animation, whatever that is, if you're close enough. But we haven't really defined like facing, you know, or anything like that in this simple game. So we're using this rotate towards player to do that. Okay, now the actor that we want to rotate towards is the player, whatever that is. And the speed is the something like 20 for any use. All right, so that is the event tick. Let's see what that does in terms of moving me and doing different things. So I'm going to go towards the enemy. Let's go towards there. It's patrolling in a certain area. As soon as it sees me, you know, as soon as I overlap, it's not happening right now, but as soon as I overlap or it detects me somehow, right, then it's going to see me and come at me. Right now, a couple things to note for this tactic that I'm using is, if I go back to my base character for a second, MP character, you know, in order for my sensing system to use pawn sensing to work or whatever, right? There's a couple of things we can use, but again, from a noise perspective, if I do something like, you know, noise, there's noise field, but notice I can say pawn noise emitter. Pawn noise emitter will make noise, so it'll kind of interface with the pawn sensing component, right? The other one is if I type in, so there's pawn noise emitter. If I type in pawn, there's also pawn sensing, right? pawn floating. So those are the two things. So we want to be able to see the other pawn. The pawn should be seen, right? Well, there is a event that we can trigger that we haven't done yet. And that event, if I go back to the PowerPoints, is the on-see pawn. It's based on the pawn seen or pawn sensing component. So if I go to pawn sense here, pawn sensing, and then I type in on C, add on C pawn, that's the event. We have a function we wrote, right, which is on player detected. So we can take that on player detected and clap it in there. So this on player detected does this last thing we did, which is, hey, if the pawn is not a player, do nothing. Otherwise, if it is a player, chase. Let's see what that, if that's enough to make our engine kind of work a little better. So I'm going to go through here, grab a couple things, and let's see if they see me. So he's going in a different direction this time. Seems like the patrol is working, right? And oh, look, they saw me, and it's going to keep on chasing me forever, right? So chase, chase, chase. I'm going to move over here, and you can see that the chasing component does work, and I can go through different places. And one thing I can do is, now that I have the key, I can go through the door, and my expectation is that the pawn or the enemy should be able to get me through there as well. Now that's interesting. So I had the key, but now it's lost. How'd that happen? That's a glitch. All right, on hear noise. This is if I'm going to hear noise. I can't make noise right now because my character doesn't do that. But what we want to do in the base enemy is have that event. So again, I'm just going to close tabs to the right. So again, clicking the pawn sensing and right-clicking on hear noise. So again, pawn sensing. Add on hear noise. There it is. What we want to do is on hear noise, which is this. And we can see that the location, the pawn instigator, and all that stuff is required for our little function. Okay? That's the on hear noise event. Now again, this won't work because our noise maker doesn't make any noise. Like what it's looking for is if I made any noise, even like a little noise as an example, then it should be able to detect me, right? That's what it should do. We have a noise radius for the base enemy. We kind of define that here in pawn sensing. We kind of said that the sight radius is 1500, but the hearing threshold is 400, and the line of sight hearing is 800. Okay? So those are the two parts that are there. So I can see pawns, I can hear noises, right? Okay. So again, to implement this, I would add in to my player a noise, pawn noise emitter, right? Now we're going to cover this again later. I'm going to put it in preliminarily. Noise lifetime is 1. Here's the tick interval, okay, as an example. So I'm making noise, you know, as an example. And that's what the pawn noise emitter does. It just makes noise, right? So you can detect, you can kind of decide how much noise it uses, right? So if I kind of scroll down, you can see that there's a couple things. From a replication perspective, this isn't replicated by default. Noise lifetime is after this amount of time, new sound events will overwrite the previous sound events. Okay, that's what it does. There's component tags we can add in there, and there's a tick interval, the frequency in seconds in which the tick function will be executed. So right now it's 0, which means it will be every frame. You don't want this to be every frame, my friends. Okay, because if it's every frame, that means like, and if you have multiple players, that means you're making noise, like you're trying to sneak behind a pawn, and every frame, every enemy is checking to hear if they heard noise. So reduce this, please. Like you can add in tick in seconds, like every 2 seconds. You know, make it longer that this thing will check, right? So that's these things. You can modify a couple of these settings, and then on hear noise. If I go back to the pawn event, if we hear noise, what do they do? They move towards the location of the player, even if they can't see them. Well, let's see if we can check this out. So we're going to kind of sneak beside the player. There is no, right now, there is no, we're just a noise maker. So if I come near enough to the pawn or to the enemy, whether they see me or not through this wall, they'll be able to detect me and come closer. All right, so again, I'm just going to move, move, move. I'm making noise all the time. The closer I am, I'm making noise. It's getting closer. It's hard to test this one because, you know, again, it's got to be within radius. And the noise radius is pretty small. So now I'm right next to him. So if it's going to work, it's going to work now. See that? Look at, he can't see me, but he did turn this direction, right? The last place that I made noise, kind of thing. Now the on overlap thing, I'm really close to him at this point. He should be able to turn around and stuff like that. All right, so again, going back to the MP character, that's what pawn noise emitter does. If I type other things like sound or whatever, pawn noise emitter is what I want to look at. That's the thing that allows me. Now there's component tags. I can add a component tag in here, right? And I can add different tags as well, which we're going to cover, right? Start with tick enabled is important. And does it replicate or not? You know, activation, if I hover over, it tells me what this is. It says whether the component is activated at creation or must be explicitly activated. I'm going to activate this thing, right? So what we can do is we can activate the sound on walking, right? So if I'm running, I can activate. I'm going to activate it all the time just to test this out. One more time. Because otherwise we can't really test it out so easily. Let me just pick up a couple things here. I do have the key. Yes, I do, but I mean, I had the key. I picked it up, but somehow it says I need a key. That's weird. We're going to talk about that in a bit. Okay, he's behind. I'm behind him now. He's looking away from me, and I should be able to make noise enough now because I'm close enough to him. If anything's making noise, it should be me. You know? Oh. Kind of didn't detect me, right? There, now I see me. He's seeing where he works, but the noise doesn't seem to work. So we'll come back to that. On component begin overlap, this part is where I'm really close, then on action radius overlap, what we're going to do, right? So that's the next part. So component action radius is where we're going to click on component begin overlap, and we're just going to take on action radius overlap, and we're going to go to the other actor and connect it there. Other actor. And now, if we try this again, let's try this thing. Move him. Pick up a bunch of stuff. By the way, we're having this issue with the player. If I go to character, and I go to character 1, if I'm not wrong, that's this guy. And if I look at key, is key equipped is off, but meanwhile, didn't we pick up a key over there? How come is key equipped is not on anymore? Well, let's take a look at what happened before we go on. So I'm going to go there and check that out. So I'm going to pick up 1, and you can see is key equipped is false. But if I move towards the key, is key equipped is true. Take a look. And then when I go and pick up something else, it becomes false again. That's messed up, right? What happened? How come that's going on, right? What's the logic behind that? That's a bug in our code. Well, let's fix that first because we just found another bug as we're testing. So when does that happen? We have a lot of functions here. So there's perform sphere trace, right? perform sphere trace is checking to see if the actor is interactable, right? And that's what this does. So that's the interactable part, right? We set the visibility, set the render custom depth to whatever if the actor is interactable. But this is not that. It's a key. It's where we run over it with our radius, right? Some kind of radius that we're running over, right? So, and that's happening on the actual element itself. So if I go back to pickups, and if I go to base pickup, here's my base pickup, and here's pickup radius. If the other actor is not self, good, then try and cast to the other actor. That's why we did this one. If we can, pickup. And then it's is key. If it's is key equipped, then the target is equipped with a key. This is wrong, right here. Why is this a problem? This little piece of code right here, guys. Come on, help me troubleshoot. You guys are experts at blueprints now. No matter how messy they are. Let's go. Come on. Why is this a problem? This is for any base pickup. Yes?
This, I believe, this was a thing on the test, I'm pretty sure, that fixed. It was,
Could be. Yeah.
if you pick up a key and then you pick up another item, because the other item is not a key, it turns off if you have it.
That's right. That's not correct. We got to check to see if the player already has a key, and if they do, don't turn it off, right? Because they already have it. That's the way we're doing keys. We're not putting keys in inventory right now, okay? So, so this is incorrect because it says this. It says, okay, I want to cast to the character. I want to pick up that item, and then that character, if this is a key, this item is a key, then equip it. Otherwise, change is key equipped to whatever. Well, first is to check to see if the key is already equipped. So we can say that is key equipped, right? We want to check that first, right? If it's already equipped, branch. A little bit of changes to the character because it's a mistake. It's a fault, right? If it's already equipped, then don't do anything, right? Don't do this if it's already equipped, right? If is key equipped is true. Well, so we don't want that. We want if it's not equipped. So not bool, right? That's what we want. If the key is not equipped, then and only then do we want to do this, right? Otherwise, don't do it because that's bad. Because that means when we run over a coin, we actually invalidate the fact that we have a key. Compile and save. Let's try this out and see if we fixed our problem. So again, I'm going to look at character 1. Here's the key. I run over and grab the key. It's equipped. And now if I run over the coins, they don't invalidate my key, and I can open the door. Yay. Okay? That's that first problem. And the other one is, now, if I get close enough to this guy, even if he's not paying attention to me, I'm emitting sound, that's okay. But if I get close enough to him, he's going to switch around, he's going to look at me, and he's going to chase me. Because now I've entered his radius. And he's going to keep chasing me. And what's happening is, look what happens is it becomes attack action when he's close enough. He's going to chase me, attack action. And we don't have the attack action yet, but that's what he's going to do. So we've kind of created our own acceptance radius. Okay, we did the runtime generation thing because we wanted to fix that. But so why then this? What about this emitter, the sound emitter? How come it doesn't work? Well, let's take a look at the documentation. Again, I'm looking at the documentation over and over again, my friends, because I have a feeling that you guys might do it another way. I want to show you that it's not that bad. So if I kind of go in here and look at the documentation and kind of look at pawn sensing or just sensing, that sometimes you can find the documentation and sometimes you can't. If I go, kind of AI, so there's the AI system, there's AI perception. I want to look at that. Here's my perception system. And AI sight and touch and hearing and So AI perception, there's the pawn noise emitter, and there's the pawn sensing component. So this is what I want. But notice it also has all of these things. So AI, if I type in AI in here, it has all these things in here. And so you can see that AI perception, you can, it's a different system than the pawn sensing system, right? Pawn sensing is actually a very simple system compared to the AI perception system, right? And if I look at the hearing range, the distance in which the sense can be perceived by AI perception system, right? And here's AI sight. And if I go down to the other ones, here's the stimuli source. So the AI stimuli source component gives the owning actor a way to automatically register itself as a stimuli source for the designated senses, which within the perception system. An example use case would be to have an AI character with an AI perception component set to perceive stimuli based on sight. You could then use the stimuli source component in an actor, such as an item pickup actor, and register it as a stimuli for sight, which would enable the AI to see the actor in the level, right? So, maybe it's not the, so AI sense hearing, this is stimuli properties, right? And I want to trigger this other thing. Maybe we can do it that way. Okay, so back to my character. So here is my pawn noise emitter, right? And so now there's two events, on component activated and on component deactivated, right? And I can activate the component when I'm moving. So if I'm moving, it activates. So let's take that component activation off. So instead of auto activate, let's basically say that inside the event graph, when I'm moving, so remember that here in this project, we don't use C++ for moving. We use other ways of controlling everything. So there's the IA move. Here's moving. And when this is activated, when IA move is activated, then what I can do is take my pawn noise emitter and I can click on component activate. I want to activate this thing, right, the component itself, right, when I'm moving or not. That's what I want to do. So on component activated, what am I going to do? I can do whatever I want to do. So how do you activate it? That's the response to the activation, right? So back to the move component, I can grab my pawn noise emitter, and when I do that, I can set active when I'm moving. So the problem is it only sets it active one time, and I really need to know, as an example, the ground speed. So if my ground speed, I don't have that capability to know how fast I'm moving, right? So I could generate this based on the character movement component. So I can just do the same thing we did before, character movement, and then I can get velocity, right? Just like before, just like we did it for the other thing. And then under velocity, I can check the XY length, right? And if the XY length, which is the speed, is greater than a certain number, greater than, I don't know, greater than 1, let's say, so it's moving pretty slow. Even slow movement, if you want to make a threshold like 125 for slow movement, or whatever it's going to be, if that's true, then what I want to do, is I can set it to active or not if it passes this test. So I can say if I'm moving at all, right, put that in place here. Let's just do it so it's not interfering with everything. Let's move that out a little bit. Then I can activate that component. And that's kind of what I want to have to do. Now I'm doing it in a weird spot. which is I'm doing it here when I'm pressing the buttons. When I'm actually pressing the buttons to move, it's generating, it's checking to see if I'm moving greater than 1, and if I am, or if I'm sliding even, it'll cause this to come true, right? Because I want to basically say if this is true, then set active or not, right? If this is greater than this, then actually what I can just say is if this is true, then I can just make this active directly. There we go. And if it's not true, then it'll be inactive. All right. So let's check to see if that works. So again, I'm going to run it, and I'm going to go to my other actor, and I'm going to check to see if... so one thing is the pawn, if I scroll down here, I can actually choose pawn noise emitter, right? And here are the noise settings that I can check. And I can check if it's auto active or not. And if it's active or not active, one thing that so user asset data is interesting, right? If I click this user asset data, it basically allows me to choose other assets to add in. I don't need this right now, but here's navigation. Can't ever affect navigation, or whatever. We don't want that, but this is noise lifetime. So noise lifetime, again, if I hover over, it just basically says after this amount of time, new sound events will overwrite the previous sound events. So louder, okay? All right, so if I run through as an example, then let's see if I'm generating sound on movement. Now he went somewhere, I don't know where he went. Oh, he's here. And I don't want to be too close, but remember there is a radius. So the idea is that this is definitely not working. Oh, no, it came too close to him. Because he can actually see me now. He's going to chase me forever. All right. So let's take a look at pawn sensing. Pawn sensing, components, Unreal Engine. Oh, it's terrible. My God. Why am I using Crow? Why? It's terrible. Is that with this as well? My God. Oh, drives me crazy. Okay, sight detection, hearing detection. If it works on tandem with the pawn noise emitter, which is what I did, present on the character make noise, detect sounds, and an on-hear noise event is triggered when the noise is within AI's hearing range, allowing the AI to investigate the noise location, blueprint and C++ integration. We just did this properly. Sensing interval, how frequently the thing checks, only sense players, a Boolean that when checked restricts detection, and the hearing threshold determines how loud noise must be to be detected. Let's see what that is. I forgot about that. That means that that's inside of this, inside of the enemy. And if I go to the on-hear noise, the volume is something that I want to send in. Here's the volume. And I don't even care about it because I'm not using it at all. I'm basically saying if any volume, if the volume is 0 or if the volume is 100, it doesn't matter, right? Because if I'm hearing noise, then I take the pawn instigator, which is whoever made the noise, right? And it says right now on hear noise doesn't do much. It just basically says, okay, if the location is go to the location that the noise was made. This is where it was made. Go to that location, okay? And then when I get there, simple move to location. So wherever the noise was made, the location of the noise is what's happening here. The volume doesn't matter, right? So let's do something. Let's print out this volume. So we can do that, and I can do that first. Like what volume? Am I actually making noise? How about that? So I'm not making noise. Let's say print string. Here we go. And I want to print string this volume of noise. So let's see if that is going to work. And that's on any one of those things. So again, nothing, no noise. And I want to see if I can make noise because I'm making some. He's kind of stuck. he went into a wall, and I don't want to get too close, but you can see that there's no noise being detected, which tells me that either my emitter is off or not emitting any noise. So pawn noise emitter, lifetime. Tick interval. Sorry, let's do this auto activation again. I want to make sure that this is kind of working. It's something dumb that I'm missing. Maybe the enemy is deaf. How about that? But we do have a noise component. I want to go there. Yeah, because right now, let me just look at the AI stuff. So there's the AI. Okay. So you can see the animation, which is there. Path following. Come very close, but nothing happened. There's no noise made. I just kind of penetrated his, and he lost interest just now. Yeah, because he went close, and then he's going to lose interest. Watch. Because you know why? Because this is check if stuck. Check if stuck is working, because I'm just sitting there, and so he got me, and so because I'm there for too long, he lost interest. There we go. Let's go back to perception and turn that on. Let's go to 5. Okay, he saw me. He's turning around. See where it says zero, what bothers me is it says 0 listeners. And that's because his perception system's off. Now, the way this works is different when I use a perception system compared to the pawn sensing. Pawn sensing is a very simple system. Okay? I just want to make sure that, because we know sight is working, but line of sight threshold, let's go back to the viewport. That's hearing threshold. That's this. It's pretty big, guys. Like it's like, you know, it's a pretty big threshold for hearing. It's like right around him, right? And his hearing threshold is this blue thing, which is 400, right? Let's make it really big. Let's make it 800, the same as his line of sight hearing threshold. So it's right around him. Sorry, I just want to make sure. I really want to trigger this thing. So we have some code to do it, but it's just not doing what it's supposed to do. So he's going in a random direction. He's going into his little home. And now I'm definitely close enough right here to trigger the hearing stuff. But that's not, what that just did was trigger, I kind of went through his field of, his action radius. Yeah, he saw me. Hold on a second here. Here, let's just make sure he saw me, and then let's turn on that stuff. So you can see he's going to lose interest, and then he's going to go somewhere else. There he goes. So if I do this, that should be enough to trigger sounds, and it's not doing. All right, so help. You guys can help me out. I have an emitter. I have a pawn sensing component. Why isn't it working? Help me out. So things I would check, right? It says, while still functioning in modern Unreal Engine, the pawn sensing component is considered basic or legacy. The more modern, powerful alternative recommended is the AI perception system. So where this is really good is line of sight, but the AI perception system is what we want to go towards. So let's see if we can do that instead. So if I go back and replace the system, so base enemy, if I type in AI, you can see that there is an AI perception. This one is gives owning actor a way to auto-register as perception system sense stimuli source. So that's what I definitely want for the character now, not the other one. So if I want to go to AI perception, here it is. Now notice it's there, but what we need to do is on the AI perception, we can add in senses to cover that. So I can click on plus, right? And then I want the type of sense. So I want to do sight. Here's my sight configuration. And you can see it's going to be very similar to what we had before, sight radius and so on. You just don't see it here in the thing. So again, if I kind of go and use the same thing, so sight radius is 1500. Let's use the same thing here, sight radius 1500. Okay. Lose sight radius. So this is where, if I hover over, it says maximum sight distance to see target that has already been seen. So beyond that radius, it's gone. Peripheral vision is 45 degrees. We said that. And that's really it. So that's the sight thing. Okay. Now, in order for me to make this work, we're going to see that we're going to have to add a stimuli source, right, which is different, right? So that's the AI perception. We also can add in. Let's add that in. Another sense, which we're going to call hearing. Here's my hearing config. And in the hearing config, the hearing range, again, I want to make it like, I don't know, 800. Right? And so maximum age specifies the limit after stimuli generated by this sense becomes forgotten. So 0 means I never forget. You can also lose effect, right? So there it is. And now dominant sense, which one is the dominant sense? Is it hearing or sight? And I'm going to make it so that sight is the dominant sense. Otherwise, if you don't have a dominant one, it'll switch between the two. So that's how simple it is. It's actually very nice, right? One thing that it has is, it has a couple of different events. One of them is on perception updated, on target perception, right? On component activated and on component deactivated. You can activate and deactivate the component as well. Okay, so that's how it works, how the events work. Now we had, from before, on the event graph, we had on scene pawn and on hear noise, but now it's not like that. The AI perception system, if I have, these are the events, on perception updated, and it says, if I hover over, might want to move these to special AI perception component, right? Or it says, notifies all bound delegates on target perception forgotten, on target perception updated. So it says, notifies all bound objects that perception info has been updated for a given target. Okay, so that's what this is. So it says on this, here's the stimulus source. So if I kind of split the struct pin, you can see that these are the things that the stimulus source can give us, right? The strength of the stimulus and all this stuff. So it's a much more complete system. But again, my intention here when I was doing this was like, I wanted to make it very simple, in order for us to, kind of detect the player, right? So that's why this is much more complex. Here's the actor that's being detected. And then we would have to pass that into the pawn instigator. So that's the thing. On hear noise really is just giving us a location. So if you kind of hover over, it says delegate to execute when hear noise from a pawn's pawn noise emitter component, right? And it's not hearing anything. So that's what this is. So it's much more complex, much more complete. That's why I didn't want to use it. Because then, when we have that, if I go back to my character, I'd have to add in, if I go to AI, I have to add in a stimulus source, right? So if I go to stimuli source, there it is. Then here's a stimuli source, and it says auto register as a source. Here it is. And register as a source for a certain sense. What sense do I want to register for? I want to register for hearing or sight or whatever. And so this can make it so that you can see or hear or whatever. That's what this does. Okay? And it has a couple of events, on component activated and on component deactivated, and that's really it. Okay, so that's what this does. And you can register for multiple senses. You can register for each one. So I can have like 2 of these. I can say I want to register for sight, and I also want to register for hearing, so that these 2 things generate the events for those things as a stimuli source for the AI perception system. Okay, so that's how it works. And of course, you have the tick interval, so it checks every certain often and so on. All right, so that's what this does. But it's very similar in many ways to the noise emitter. so far that's the only thing that's not working for us. The noise emitter isn't really doing anything. Okay? Let's go back to 0 just for, we're going to make it so it emits, instead of every 2 seconds, maybe that was too abrupt, and that's why it wasn't working. And let's just do that. Let's make sure that that happens every frame now. I'm being more aggressive with this thing, because I want to make sure it works. I was hoping I didn't have to do this, but hey, that's pro. Nah, he already saw me. Too late. And let's go back and do this. And he's going to lose interest. He's gone. And then I kind of move away. And I want to make it so that I'm inside of his radius, but not close enough to be. Yeah. Yeah. It's always active, so I'm not seeing anything at all. Anyways, I will, what to do? You guys aren't really helping me out too much, right? With my little coding issue. Can somebody do a search, please, and help me out? Are you guys awake? Bueller? It's 5:12. I think, guys, I'd like to kind of wrap it up because we did most of what we want to do today. So again, let's go back. If we looked at what I did, I got my enemy. I've got this, the pawn here, pawn, pawn sensing. It's not really doing anything. Volume is going nowhere because it's not happening right now. Pawn instigator, we're not using that too much either. Pawn instigator is not being used. We're just going to go towards the location. All we care about is the location. Location is where we're going to go to that location. Go to location is taking the location, and it's going to make it do a simple move to. That's all it's doing. So that should work. But my thoughts are that the pawn pawn noise emitter is misconfigured somehow, or we're not using it properly, right? So what to do? I have auto activated it, so it's always making noise. It's just something that we're using. Okay? Anybody? Thank you for all your help, guys. It's a really amazing thing that you're paying attention and helping out. Well, let's do the update. Okay. ChatGPT, my friends. I don't know what the reason is. Let's do it. So I'm going to say I have a pawn sensing component on AI enemy and a noise emitter on the character, but the on here noise events is not generating any volume. It's okay. Make noise. Using a make noise on your character, the loudness parameter is, oh, okay. Blueprint's loudness should be greater than 0. Make noise. Okay, can I do that? That means that pawn noise emitter make noise. There we go. That's what I needed. And I want to do that when I'm moving. So I don't have to even do any of this stuff. When I'm moving at all, I'll do it. Just because that was simple. I knew I was overthinking it. I just couldn't remember. There we go. Make noise. When I click this thing, I'm making noise. Noise maker is me. And the loudness is going to be, I don't know, 10. There we go. Noise location is get actor location. And there we go. Now it should work. Dun, 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 dun. Making some loud noise. He can't hear me. I'm behind this wall. And will he come to investigate now that I'm making this terrible?
You want the player to
Oh no, he's already hearing me. Look. See this? See where it says server 10?
Yeah.
Yeah, that means he's hearing me. So it's working now. And so what's going to happen is he should turn around in here and investigate the noise, because that's how we planned it. Look, and there it is. Perfect. Works great. All right, that was not what I wanted, but okay. So let's go back to base enemy, and let me go to that on here noise event. I've made this happen. We don't need this anymore. We don't care about the volume. If any noise is made by the character right now, it's going to chase. So that's where we leave it today. Noise works, everything works. The only thing we had to do as a fix was, if I go to my character, I had to use the pawn noise emitter and make noise. That's it. Yay.
If you wanted to play a specific sound, you could then put to the right of the make noise a play sound node.
You could. Like for example, or you can put it part of the animation. Like let's say for example you have footsteps, right? And when you do running footsteps, it makes a different noise, right? And that's when, and you want to make noise based on the velocity that you're moving. So if you're moving very quickly, right, like more than 150 units or whatever, that's the velocity. Then if it's more than 150 units, you can actually make noise on the animation blueprint. Because your animation blueprint already has the ground move. We already know that because that's how we're using the blend space. And so we can take the animation blueprint and connect it to the player blueprint and make noise from the player, right? So the two things will happen. You can add in, you know, if I go back to the animation blueprint for a second, for the player now I'm talking about. So if I go to this one, right? Right now I have a walk run, right? And the animation for the walk run, if I open that up, the blend space, there is an animation for walk and an animation for running, right? So if I run fast, like this one up here, there's the run, right? So if I kind of look at that animation, remember here, what I can do is I can add in like a notify event. That notify would be the sound notification, which actually makes sound. So it can make like footsteps or whatever. That notify event is going to have a thing like, for example, make sound. It's going to come up as something that I can call up in the animation blueprint here inside the event graph, right, where I can make a sound. So a good example of that would be this. Now again, I probably would want to change this from a animation sequence to a montage, because it's more, I have more flexibility with the montage, whereas the animation, but I could add it in here. I could add in an animation track. So let's say for example, let's slow this down, right? So when I'm moving, so I kind of take a step like here, I can make a noise right here. I can do that. So let's add in a notify, and you could play a sound that you want right there. So that's where the sound would be. And this play sound effect, I could choose a sound that I want to play, whatever that sound would be. Oh, look, there's a bunch of sounds that are built in. But let's say I could play a sound effect, and that sound effect could be played like here and here or whatever. Or I can just make my own custom event, my custom notification. So let's delete that. So let's say if I do it here, right, and if I add a notify, and if I say new notify, you know, footsteps, like that, right, and they're only on the run. There's another one. So let's say add notify footsteps. Let's copy paste that one. Copy paste to this, paste. So we have a couple footsteps. We have one here and one here, right? As an example. And then what you could do, right, once you've done this in the animation sequence, is inside of the, in here, if I type in footsteps, right, notice that it's an anim notify. I've just created that. So then what I can do is from here, I can get a reference to the player. Here's the character, right? And then from the character, if I make the object that I want to have, I can have a thing that plays sound or whatever, or generate sound, right? And that's when I can do it. Every single time you can hear the footsteps, clack, 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 whatever you want to do that, right? Make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's how I would do it.
Yeah, so like there are multiple ways to do it. You said this is arguably a
instead of because it's more accurate, because instead of me doing it like how fast I'm going, I only want to generate the type of I want to generate the sound based on a footstep type. So for example, let's say you're traveling across rough terrain, difficult terrain, and it's like making a lot of noise. You can make noise. You can actually generate more noise for the system. So like, oh hey, I heard you. You're on like or you're on broken glass or whatever you're on, something that makes a lot of noise. And you hear it in game because you're going to play it in game, give feedback for the user, and at the same time your enemies can hear it. Right? So that's the way you do it. All right. So that is a couple of things. I'm going to take these away just in case I will forget to do that kind of stuff later. All right, so that we've done everything we need to do for this week. So for next week, when we get together for this thing, again, remember that assignment 3 does not include AI. It only includes the improving the inventory system, making the inventory system. Focus on that for assignment 3. That's due next Friday at midnight right now, okay? And again, just for those people who missed it earlier because you guys were late or whatever, tomorrow, async, okay? Which means there's no class, no live recording or whatever. I'm not gonna, put ourselves up on Zoom or something. It's gonna be an async recording. I'll let you know when it's done. And it'll happen when I get back from the hospital, okay? And then again, I'm moving the AI assignment a couple of days forward, probably to the Monday of that week. So instead of the 27th, it'll be like the 30th. Okay, just give you a couple of days because my bad, I'm away. All right? Questions before we go for the day? Yes?
Assignment 4 is going to be about AI.
Yes. Yeah, and that's why I'm also going to release assignment 4 on Friday. Okay? Oh, sorry, next week. Yeah, next week. I'll be okay. Yes.